Well, hello there from
Oh, Mama Jane.
and
Mama Jane's husband.
well, hello there, and we are on our way to Iceland on P&O's Aurora, and well, it's a bit rocky in the North Sea at the moment.
It's very rocky in the North Sea at the moment.
It's very rocky. You're quite perturbed by it, aren't you, Mama Jane? Quite perturbed. I will say this is our third attempt to make this video. Because, well, the camera's fallen over twice.
The self-leveling tripody thingy flew off the table.
Yes.
On the last.
Yes. We, a couple of days ago, we were in the Orkneys, and we docked at Kirkwall, well, a little bit outside Kirkwall, about 2.5 miles away. You can be tendered into Kirkwall, and some ships do that. But actually, it's so easy to dock at the port, the larger port, that it was the simplest thing to do. And there is a shuttle bus run by the local council that takes you into Kirkwall, and it's on a continuous loop. There's two of them,
free.
And the loop is free, and they provide you with a free map of Kirkwall as well. And they give it. It's provided in several different languages.
And at the actual stop, there's actual people there. It's like the information
Staff even.
Staff, and it's like a tourist information and very helpful and very nice.
They were very helpful, weren't they?
Yeah.
Directing us around, telling us where to go, and we used the shuttle after we'd got back from a morning's shore excursion. And we booked this through P&O, and we were off the bus off the ship on time, straight onto our bus, and we had a lovely guy, didn't we? Called
Norman. Said it on the back of his high vis. Now, of course, he could have borrowed Norman's high vis, I suppose.
I suppose he could have, yeah.
But no, he did answer to Norman.
Just to confuse Mama Jane.
But he did answer to Norman, so I think that
he did answer to Norman, didn't he?
Yeah,
yeah. We drove past Scapa Flow, which is a stretch of water between the Orkneys and the main Orkney Island, and the southern islands that are part of the Orkney archipelago.
Of which there are 70 islands.
Yeah, there we are.
Now you know.
You remembered that well, didn't you? And Norman was explaining that at the end of World War II, the German Navy had been captured, lots of the ships had been captured, and they were being held at Scapa Flow. And the German captain ordered that they sink their own ships, and down they went, so that they didn't become they weren't used by the enemy. So now over time the steel has been salvaged by locals, and it's very sought after because they scuppered the fleet before Hiroshima and Nagasaki occurred. So the steel in the ship is more pure than you can produce these days. So it's greatly sought after, and in fact it's used in the space industry to go up in satellites and things like that, and for scientific experiments, because it's got much lower background radiation than the steel that can be produced today. So how about that then? So anyway, we passed Scapa Flow, and then the next place we passed was the Bay of Ireland, with Stromness in the distance, and there's not many hills or mountains or trees on Kirkwall or the Orkneys, and you may, because it's so windy, very, very windy. So anyway, we passed the Bay of Ireland.
There is one wood, and the chap who planted this wood 120 years ago, what he did, he went out one day and he put all these flagpole thingies in the ground and left it, and to see which flags didn't blow over. And where the flags didn't blow over, he planted a tree. How sensible was that? Anyway, they're not very tall, these trees, and they've been there 120 years, but that's the only woodland.
It's
really.
a very dense forest, isn't it?
Yeah,
Well, woodland.
Woodland, yeah.
I liked
But
it.
yeah.
I liked it. So anyway, we the next thing we came to was we came to the Loch of Scale, and as you go along it, you can see Scale House in the on the horizon, and in fact, Scale House has been owned by the same family since the 1500s, when it was first started to be built. Now, the significance of Scale House is that it's next to a great archaeological find called Scara Brae. Now, Scara Brae turns out to be very, very old, and it's a settlement going back to about 5,000 years, so about 3,000 years BC to the Neolithic times, and that's before the pyramids were built. So it's quite old.
It's old.
It's really old.
And it was found purely by chance, because they'd had some bad weather, much bad weather up there, and it was just...
The sand was blown away.
The sand was blown away, basically, simple as
Yeah.
that. And suddenly all these buildings appeared.
Yeah.
So so then it became of archaeological importance.
Yeah. And so it's a village from the Neolithic times, and it reveals, that our ancestors lived in this little community. Seemed to be organised around families. They had this incredibly rich diet, where they were farming in the area, and it's now right by the sea. The sea was further out there when they lived there, because of erosion of everything. The sea's come much closer. Beautiful. The Bay of Scale is absolutely stunning and gloriously beautiful.
And of course, this bay used to be a loch, and there was a normal, natural barrier between it and the sea. So this was a freshwater loch. But what happened as the barrier was disintegrated by natural action of the sea, it all was flooded, and there is no more natural fresh water there, and it's all seawater now.
It's a seawater loch.
It's a seawater.
So the Loch of Scale
is seawater, saltwater.
Saltwater, yeah. So that's very interesting there. Now, there is a visitor centre at Scara Brae, and they've got you can't actually step into the houses at Scara Brae, but they've made a mock of one, haven't they? And you can walk into that and look around, and that was quite fabulous. And I'll drop a video in of me going in and having a look around. it'll have been cosy, but you know, there. Yeah, I was quite moved and touched by it all, thinking that our ancestors lived there, and we also got to look around Scale house itself, didn't we?
And apparently the Queen Mother used to visit this place. The photographs of her when she was staying in Scotland, and it's a lovely place, a lovely to have a day's visit. As Mama Jane's husband has said, there is a visitor centre with, of course, the gift shoppy and the cafe, and but nice, very nice.
Yeah, and Scale House, it's been left as it was when the mother of the current owner died.
Yeah, so in the 1980s.
Yeah, so it's got lots of interesting artifacts and. You know, expensive dinner set, and you can see where
beautiful spode china.
Yeah, and you can see where they had the dinner. You can see the bed chambers. You can see some artifacts that this family gathered over the centuries. Some military items, some swords. I like some of the swords.
Well worth a visit.
Yeah, well worth a visit. And I want to say, at the visitor centre, there's an exhibition explaining all about the people who lived at Scara Brae and what's been discovered so far about them. So off from there we went, and we came to another Neolithic site, same era, 5,000 years ago, like Scara Brae, and it's the Ring of Brodgar. Now then. Fascinating. Can you remember how many stones there were?
60.
60 stones. And it was another impressive site, wasn't it?
It was impressive. And there's so much archaeology on Orkney. It's noted for all these sites. And many of them now we've got GPS and all this clever scientific stuff. They can tell that, you know, there's stuff all over the island. Villages and remains and ruins and all sorts, but it's just having the time and the money to make the sites, open the sites up, and
excavate them.
Excavate, that's the word.
Yeah. But it was a moving site, really, and do you know what they built it in a very specific place. They built it on a strip of land between two lochs, the Loch of Stennes and the Loch of Brae. And the Loch of Brae is freshwater and the Loch of Stennes is saltwater. So they must have placed it here for a very, very good reason, on this narrow strip of land. And I just was touched by thinking, you know, our ancestors, this is how they lived in their houses, in their community, and then they obviously came together as a bigger community, and worshipped together, and here they were, their day-to-day life and their spirituality right before us, 5,000 years later, and it really touched me. It also touched me to know that actually it's older than Stonehenge. And it's very likely that information they gathered about building this went into the building of Stonehenge.
But the thing is that they found no evidence of feasting or bones or anything. There is absolutely nothing other than these 60 stones. And you might look and think, I mean, they're not as tall as Stonehenge, they're big. And at first you think, crikey me, how did they get them stones up there? Well, apparently, very easily, because it only took 6 men, or 6 people, I presume they were men, to carry each stone, because nearby is this really slippy seaweed, and they would have used that, allegedly.
As rollers.
As rollers, to skid this stuff up the banking. And so that made it seem a lot easier. But why it's there, we'll never know.
The fact that they can't find anything in the centre of these stones means to me is it was a sacred place, and people gathered there, and they worshipped there, and didn't do anything else there, because I don't know about you, but there are amazing sacred spaces on this earth today that we use, and you go there and you just sit, don't you, and you ponder the world, the universe, and everything else, and just to think that our ancestors did the same is mind-blowing.
Or did they build these stones and think, this'll make them think?
No. Oh, only you could think that, Mama Jane. Anyway, after there, we go a little bit further, and on the narrowest of strips, before you enter the Ring of Brodgar, there's some more standing stones, and they're called the Standing Stones of Stennes, after the lock that they built by. We were told that they were sort of the entrance stones that announced where you were going. And just before that, there's another stone that symbolises somebody's. This is by a burial chamber, and a bit further back than that, there is in fact a mound which is a burial chamber itself. Now, from there we made our way back to Kirkwall by a place called Finston and the Bay of Firth, and that's where you'll find the wood that Mama Jane was talking about earlier. Now, I haven't got any photos of the wood for some strange reason, just of the Bay of Firth.
It's a lot of trees. Just picture if you
It was
will.
a lot of trees.
A lot of trees in a clump.
And after that, we arrived back at the ship, and we jumped off our coach and onto the shuttle bus to go into Kirkwall, and that is going to be
another video
subject of the next video. So how about that? So it's a goodbye from
me,
and it's a goodbye from me.
Mama Jane's husband.
There you are. Goodbye.
Bye.